Welcome to the intersection where life and art collide. I'm your host, the punk rock pop pop, Leigh Pierce. And on today's show, I am happy to introduce you to musician and producer James Gross. James, how are you doing today?
Good, how are you?
Really good. So why don't you give a little background on you've got so many bands and side projects, I wouldn't even know where to start.
Yeah, it's always hard. I've spent we're on decade number three of making a living as a musician, and you got to kind of do a little bit of it all. And now I kind of do it all. So instead of picking and choosing, lately it's been a lot of producing, a lot of traveling to destination studios. That's kind of my new thing that I'm since when COVID hit at that time, I was really doing the grind of being a sideman and a jobbing guitar player and singer. And when that was kind of sidelined on what was going to be the biggest year of my career, I kind of looked at my hard drives and it'd been about a decade since I got out of the studio world, from, work for hire studio stuff other than being a guitar player. And just got this itch to go travel and see how many of these iconic studios are left and learn the art of all the great records that I grew up listening to. And it just became this addiction and this positive funnel of all this energy. And now I'm traveling the world doing it. So it's been great. And, doing styles of music that I didn't expect. A lot of my punk rock roots came back, a lot of jam band stuff, a lot of retro rock, ska, it's just been awesome.
Well, and I'm so jealous because you're always sending me like pictures of the studios and
Yeah.
these clubs. I'm like, I've literally read about these in like music history books.
Yeah.
What's been some of your favorite on site for producing? Because I know some of them, but nobody else here.
Yeah, it always, I always had the dream of doing pachyderm for so long, and kind of the time, in the early 2000s is when I really was doing a lot of studio stuff when I had one in Uptown in Minneapolis, and I always wanted to go to pachyderm, and I tried to reach out to it at that time, but it was kind of where it was in flux, and it had changed ownerships, and a lot of the gear had been sold off. So, that was a huge one for me, just as like a full circle to finally go back to pachyderm and see it at it's just functioning so great right now. And the Nick, the manager that's kind of taken over that place, is just he's put his heart and soul into that place, and it's just the walls are so thin there. It's just so nice to see the emotions that people get, and it's just so that was a huge one. But in the last 5 years, I did studio in the country a couple times down in Louisiana, which has Kansas did Dust in the Wind, and Stevie Wonder lived out there for a while, and Ani DeFranco, a whole bunch of people. I went out to Sonic Ranch in El Paso a couple times. That's just a wonderful experience. They got 5 studios on 17,000 acres, and they've got a hacienda, so they have all these women that feed you for all these meals. And I didn't realize that I was there, for about 4 or 5 days eating lunch, and realized like on day 5 that I was sitting next to Sublime the whole time, and having chats with them, be like, no, wait a minute, so. Um, that one was a really cool one. Last year in December, I went to London Bridge in Seattle, where all the grunge bands kind of, got their birth, and that was huge to see where Blind Melon recorded, and Pearl Jam 10 and Alice in Chains and all those guys. And then this last year, I decided to do this 8-week travel the world, and ended up in Germany and at Hansa Studios, and that one, to see engineers of that caliber was just, it was, I tell everybody, like, I'm a musician that decided to be an engineer and a producer. These guys are engineers that decided music, and as to where they're testing microphones every 6 months to make sure the diaphragms are degrading properly, and, just insane, and I always heard the Germans were like that. And, so that was really cool. And it's just fun, kind of hunting these down, and going at it as a producer versus an artist, this fall we were doing Sunset Sound and going to Studio 2, which has always been I never thought that would happen. And then, I'm one of those people that when I'm there, it's like, well, I'm here. What else can we do? So we're going to the Boulevard, which is kind of the birthplace of all that 90s punk rock, and Epitaph Records had their headquarters there for a year. And, so I'm super excited about that. And then capping it off, playing the show at the Whiskey A Go Go, which will just be awesome, and I went there when I was 16 to see it. I had a cousin that brought me down there, and it's just like, so it's fun to just, send an email and be like, dude, it only took 35 years, but I'm back. So, uh,
If you had to pick between the music and the producing, like if you had to decide you were gonna do one from now on, where's your heart really at?
You know, I love the aspect of going on a tour where you don't know anybody and you gotta win people over, and the reward that that has, whether it's 10 people or 500 people or 1,000 people. Um, I'm really disheartened by the scene and the ability to keep that going. I don't think club owners are thinking outside of the box, and they're trying to stay with status quo. And I think that that's the hard part, to be like, okay, we understand that at one point our job was to sell drinks, but drinks are not being sold now. So what do we do? And instead of just saying, hey, let's not have music Sunday through Wednesday, that doesn't do any good for anybody, you know. And after just coming back from Europe and doing 10 cities in Germany, um, we just got to build the community back, you know, and have it not be the status quo of here, we're here to sling drinks. And even encourage, you know, with my punk rock band, Big Fucking Skull, we're starting back up after 10 years of taking a break, and trying to get into everybody's head that, dude, pre-sale tickets are important. Like, it's important. That's how people gauge things. That's how we build a scene. That's how a touring band can come in and pick the right bands to play with them, is they're pulling Polestar numbers to see, you know, who's doing what. And if we're all just gonna sit on our hands until the day of and then decide to go to a show, we don't have a community, you know? Um, so a long answer, I love playing. I don't know that anybody can make a living doing it anymore unless you're on a certain scale. And it frustrates me that the record labels, are still playing their old games. You know, I just went around Minneapolis area and met with all the record store owners, and I met about 15 of them. And instead of being the guy that just walks in, you know, and talks to the counter person, I'm like, "Hey, can I get a meeting with the owner or the manager?" And you know, they're shocked, you know, to see that. But even, you know, I was just at Cheapo Records yesterday, which is one of the bigger chains in, you know, independent chains in Minneapolis and Wisconsin and the Dakotas. And, you know, he was saying, he asked about CDs. And I was like, "Well, what are you talking about, man?" And he goes, "Dude, CDs are outselling vinyl this year." And I'm like, "What?" And he goes, "Yeah, because," he goes, "these record companies keep raising the damn prices of vinyl." And he's like, "Dude, you go buy America's Greatest Hits, not even a gatefold, and it's $45." And he's like, you know, and you got these independent bands, you know, dumping their souls into these records, getting gatefolds and posters and colored discs, and they're only able to get $20, you know? So he said, you know, the new generation likes to collect, but they're not willing to spend $40 on something. They'll spend 10 or 15. So, um, I think we're really cool kind of changing of things, but you know, the community thing is what's really surprising me, and especially being somebody that, you know, went on the other side of it, that was doing the producing and doing the recording and not playing in the original scene, to see, like, I even did, you know, my retro rock band Sunflower Fox and the Chicken Leg did a show last week, or 2 weeks ago, on one of those super hot days outside. And, you know, it was an early show, you know, 6 to 8. The opening bands don't even stay. And it's just like, "Come on, man, like, you're using our gear, dude. The least you can do is stay until the end." Like, you know?
It's insane what I mean, COVID changed a lot of things,
Yeah,
and it feels and just I mean, the world changes, the entertainment industry changes. Like, I mean, it goes look what's happened with digital. And everything's based on analytics and numbers now.
yeah,
And I don't think the bands, the venues, and the fans all understand that. I just saw a band post this week about they canceled an event because they didn't get enough people, say, going on the Facebook event page.
yeah,
They canceled a gig. So not even like pre-sale tickets, just
yeah,
they can't. And people are like, well, I was going to go. They need to know that.
yeah,
Because like they got to, like, especially like bars, like if it's a Thursday gig, or if they don't know who's coming, do they need extra people on staff? Is one person going to
yeah,
handle it? And you get pressure from the venue. But yeah, I mean, pre-sale. Like even the Facebook event pages, that helps a lot.
Yeah.
People don't understand, but it's the way things are changing, and we've all got to adapt to it because I don't
Yeah.
see that going away. Because if the entire industry is run on analytics,
Yeah.
they're not going to be like, oh, we'll just see who shows up. No, I mean they pull movies because there's not enough interest.
Yeah.
You know, they'll scrap a $30 million movie nowadays just because they didn't get enough feedback on a Facebook post.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, we'll do this another time.
Well,
I mean,
and then it has become so, even on the social medias, it's become so pay to play. And it's just like, I'm running ads, I'm running thousands of dollars worth of ads every year. You see some things that work and some things that don't. And then, you run, I've got a show coming up with BFS that we're running, $500 worth of Facebook ads, and you still get people interested. They don't say they're going, know, or, hey, how do I get the ticket? Just read past the headline, man. There's a link right
oh
there. Hey,
God.
you know, and even like I'm going around and postering, which I'm having a blast doing, and it's funny. And I go to the club, it's a decent club in the cities that, a room that fits about 500 people. And I walk in there with posters and leave the little quarter page handouts that got a QR code on the back to buy a ticket and then full 11 by 17s. He's like, "Oh, you must know somebody in print." And I'm like, "No, I paid to make posters, 250 of them, like at 80 cents a poster, or whatever they are. I don't know if that was it, something like that. They look great. I mean, they're popping
Oh
everywhere I put
yeah.
them up. They look great, So, but even that, like getting the bands, I had 5 great bands in town that are going to represent the Minneapolis punk rock scene perfectly. But even them to be like, "Hey man, like, can you send me a picture of where you put the flyer up?" Well, why do I got to do that? Because I want to see that you did it, dude. Like, um, so I love that. I mean, I love that. Like, I think that my career is probably gonna to turn more towards less work for hire as a guitar player playing the corporate world. Because even with that, the prices aren't adjusting to inflation, which is pretty tough. When everybody could get a job at FedEx for $35 an hour, but they can only get $150 a night to play 12-hour workday, including, and I always tell people with music and performance, you're not getting paid to play, you're getting paid to set up and tear down and travel. So
I mean, practice too. You
yeah,
don't get reimbursed for all the hours you put into
not at all.
practice or writing or
Yeah.
any of that. I mean, because you don't make money selling music anymore.
Yeah.
That's for goddamn sure, unless you can sell a lot of physical media. So yeah, like people don't realize, like, oh, hey, I'll play for $50, really, because you probably got 500 hours if you look at what went into you being able to play that show.
Totally,
So
and so I think it's kind of a double-edged, COVID kind of did a couple things. It made it to where it really knocked out professional musicians to where, prior to COVID, I was working 5 days a week as a guitar player, traveling the country, doing residencies at casinos and amusement parks and stuff like that, working 5 days a week, where they all cut that down. They're all using local people. They're using people that shouldn't really be doing it for a living. They should really be doing it in a practice space. And that's not saying that people shouldn't play music. Music is a wonderful thing because it connects you with people, and that's the most beautiful thing about music is the connectivity of it. But it isn't fair when you can knock out a career with subpar. And so I think like I'm kind of moving back, especially after I went to Europe and just really had 3 weeks, which I hadn't had a 3-week time in one country to really get to know the people and actually be traveling with another band the whole time that's from there. So, you're a little standoffish for the first 3 or 4 days until you're sleeping on the floors next to each other. And then you start really becoming friends with the people. And I really realized, that's where, it's time to give back and it's time to come up with some way to give back. And I think at this point, my way to give back is with my knowledge, especially in the recording arts to show people like, hey man, we don't have to all play with click tracks. Like that was designed in the 90s by labels that were signing people that shouldn't have been signed. And, and not saying that some great music 90s had some phenomenal stuff that happened. But it was a fail safe. It was, hey, if this drummer sucks, we're going to have a click track and we're going to replace it when they leave, and I did that when I was working for the labels in the early 2000s all the time. They'd come into Minneapolis, and we'd have about 10 demo deals that would come in a year, which would basically be, record 3 songs with this band, get it to industry standard for us, send it to us, and then have a conversation of, are they worth signing? And meaning, are their personalities, can they handle the road? Can they write a full album? Do they have more songs? And there was a number of times where we'd send stuff back and they'd say, hey, replace this bass player. And we just replace the bass player, and you just don't say anything. You get a studio person in and that can play it exactly like the person, just a little better in time, you know? So, uh, so I think, um, and me and you have kind of talked, and our relationship has been awesome because I've been trying to, come up with what do we do, and you coming up with, 144 music group as like kind of a hub of how can we do this in 144 booking and 144 studios, and there's just going to be so many aspects of it that we can do in genres, that I really, over the last 5 years and going to these studios, I've learned some really cool techniques. I've learned about some gear that I just never would have crossed paths with. And I'm a gear nut. So as soon as anything I make playing goes back into playing. So I've got a house full of gear, house full of amps, house full of guitar. And one of the
It's a
things,
house full of studio.
yeah, well, it's
You mean
become a house
studio full of
studio.
gear? Is it
So,
is it still livable space?
well, there's a bed. That's
I
there's
got
one
a cot in the
yeah.
garage.
There's one bed and one couch in the house, but it's been really cool. So the thing that I've been doing over this last 6 months, especially since I got back from Europe, is we're kind of transforming the whole house into a studio, and we're putting monitor boxes in every room of the house. We're putting a live room, and the living room has become basically a live drum room with a small stage. Baffles just got hung in the ceiling, which is phenomenal yesterday, and the wiring team has come out and figured out how are we going to get Cat 5 throughout the whole house. It's already got finished walls, and then we're basically going to put tie lines in every one of the rooms. We're going to have a video camera in every room, that I can control from the central hub. And then we're starting to schedule bands to just come in and play a song. And one of the things that I wanted to do was not have it based on money. So I've been all into sunglasses. So I got this big sunglass rack, and I just said, okay, we're going to put this at the beginning, at the entry of the door, right next to the journal. So when people can sign in that they were here, and then if they don't have any money, and we're going to record a song, they have to leave a pair of sunglasses. So, and I kind of used that years ago when I started working with a lot of singer songwriters, especially the shyer ones, that I'd just be like, hey, put on these sunglasses. You can be whoever you want. Like, and it's just one of those tools that just kind of does that. So, it's really fun to start reaching out to bands and start going and seeing people, especially at a later stage in life, and to hear a song and be like, oh man, this song is great. Like, let's record it. And then they're like, well, I don't have any money. I said, well, I didn't ask for money. And they're like, well, what's your catch? And I'm like, you tell people whether you had a good time or a bad time, and it's so funny to just see people so hesitant that somebody can give back, and that's really what I want to start doing over the next 10 years is create a legacy of what can you leave behind you, and what can you do for people to shave time off their career. And I made a lot of mistakes. I made a lot of right decisions too, and I never gave up, and I realized, I had a mentor years ago that told me, if you ask the right questions, you can get a hold of anybody with 3 phone calls. Now that's changed a little bit now because they don't answer the damn phone. But yeah, and we all know how emails work. You can emails. It's 1 out of 100 if you get a response. So
Literally everyone has somebody on staff that's paid just to answer emails. I'm
yeah,
always like, why can I just? And, the one I hate now is getting like, you can tell if something's been read.
yeah,
That fucking makes me so mad.
yeah.
Like, just
And
delete it. Don't even read it. Now I'm just like waiting.
yeah. Well, and the thing for booking shows that just blows my mind, especially in the original world, we're not asking for anything, man. We're asking, when I booked the Sunflower Fox and the Chicken Leg tour for the spring, I could not believe the amount of venues that I got a hold of somebody, and I was like, hey, we want to come in here and play here on a Tuesday, and we're cool with working for the door. What's it cost for your sound guy? I'll guarantee that if we don't make that at the door, I will pay that. Like, we just want people to hear it. We sell a relatively good amount of merch because the band is good. And it's like, I just want people to hear the band. And even with that, it's like, I don't know, man, nobody's gonna know you. Well, take a risk, man. Put an ad on the radio. Like, I can't, when people, I always have this conversation where they're like, well, the marketing of the past doesn't work. Then I said, oh, you're doing print ads? Well, no. Oh, you're doing radio ads? Well, no. Well, what of the past are you doing? Nothing?
I mean, I don't do satellite radio, so if I'm not listening to something in the car, it's usually just local radio.
Yeah.
And like it's cool because nobody does radio ads, so it's back to like the mom and pop shops that are
Yeah.
like the owners are doing their own
Yeah,
ads, and they
totally.
really shouldn't be
No.
because they're fucking horrible,
Yeah.
and I love it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, they can't give away radio time. I don't understand why more local venues don't utilize it.
Yeah, because I mean, especially during rush hour and when people are going to work, man, and even sponsor, I'm a huge college radio person because I love songwriting with no rules because I think we're
Yes.
creatures that shouldn't have rules. And punk rock didn't start from, playing 50s music and that stuff. It was people making changy guitars and slitting cones on speakers and seeing what happened, and so I love that. But man, you're right. It just, even with that, with college radio, you can sponsor the show and they'll drop your name 3 or 4 times. Like, there's so many better ways to do things and even try things. And even like, just the clubs having, on their cover page or their cover picture, just be a list of the bands that are playing there for the month. Why do you got to dig for it, man? Like, you're making this, we know the attention span is 8 seconds. So why are we hiding anything beyond 15? You know?
Yeah. Do event no venues do events, it
Yeah.
seems like an event invite or on Facebook events page part of it. I
Yeah.
don't know how many times I'll be looking at a band and I'll be like, even like, oh, what like I like their music. I'm gonna look into these guys. Maybe I want to reach out to them, see if they're looking for marketing help. And I'll get in there and I'll look and I can't find like a single show. And I'll go to talk to them and they'll be like, oh yeah, we just played 2 days ago. And there's nothing
Yeah.
for weeks. Just scrolling. There's no Facebook events. There's no pictures.
Yeah.
There's nothing. I'm like, I don't understand it. Like, I mean, and it's going to get to a point where when you're growing in the industry, that's what they're looking at.
Yep.
They're looking at your Spotify numbers. They're looking at your Facebook and Instagram followers. And if it's lacking, and that's the stuff that's going to help because it crosses over from those numbers to actual people showing up. Like I said, how can we know if a band's playing if they don't post on anywhere?
Yeah.
Well, venues sure as shit aren't going to do it.
Yeah, yeah.
Venues never, ever promote it. See, and bands forget to ask if. Well, I thought they were going to. Well, I thought they
Yeah.
were going to.
And whatever happened to the art of the street team?
I'm bringing it back. I've got
Yeah,
a bunch of artists coming through, and then my newest client, Vermin Supreme, is coming through this fall, and I'm setting up a street team pretty much in each state that he's coming through.
I mean, because that's like, it's the personal connection, man. And I always tell artists when I'm working with them, I'm like, how many people are you within 10 feet of in a day? Yeah, right. And I met with Rick Barker years ago, who was Taylor Swift's first manager. And basically, I was at a conference and I was like, dude, I'm going to pay whatever it costs to sit with this guy for a half hour because this dude knows he gets this. And and that was his thing, was just like, how many people, are you next to that you could just be like, dude, do you like new music? And most of them are, you got a yes, no answer. They're either going to say yes or no. If they say yes, well, you got an in. Hey, man, you got a phone on you? Because everybody's got a supercomputer in their front pocket, and anything they've never heard is brand new to them.
Yep.
And it's like, hey, check out this tune. It's getting a lot of streams right now, and you got a new fan. And stuff like that. And it's just like, people like, don't sit. We can all create our own destiny, and we just have to all kind of work to get the community back. And another thing I was really shocked with, in Europe is just the venues putting up the bands. Like, yeah, they're not putting them in hotels like they do here and wasting $1,000 to go to the Holiday Inn for 8 rooms or for 6 rooms that cost $250 a room. But instead, they've built a bunkhouse on the upper stairs of their club. And then they get a volunteer that comes in and cooks you dinner. And it's not, it's not burgers. It's, a stew or curry, or it's, a soup or something like that. But man, when you're on the road, those are the things you want. you're sick of eating the gas stations. You're sick of eating the fast food. You're sick of eating the grimy, greasy shit at the bars, like, so it's, yeah, it's, and bringing that back in, I mean, I can't think of, I didn't have, I called 300 venues, contacted 300 venues for the Sunflower Tour this spring. I didn't have one even say they have a bunkhouse. I found one in like Indiana or Ohio that's a bowling alley that has it, which is pretty cool, but like, hey man, can we start a network like that? Could we get somebody in each state to be like, hey, in these 16 cities, can we do this? Like, and in some of these cities, we do have good art and music, you know, financials coming in tax revenue. That can we allocate that to giving these artists a place to stay so they're not spending their whole touring budget or their whole thing just to get from Madison to, Chicago or Minneapolis to Chicago or wherever we're going, and yeah, it's just interesting.
Well, yeah, and with Facebook groups, especially localized and regional, it would be more people need to be thinking about that side of it. Like, yeah, everybody can book a band. That's easy, but then what do they do between that and the next show?
Yeah.
Where are they going? Are they just jumping on the back on the road and doing it, or even like they just need a safe driveway or parking place to sleep in their vehicle?
Yeah.
Because that's not, I mean, there's some Walmarts you don't want to sleep in the parking lot even.
Yeah.
So like, there's a lot of stuff that people don't think about that goes into it. Well, you've seen anytime any of my clients come through, we always have them stop by. We'll either feed them or let them wash up or what.
Yeah.
I used to always keep packages of new socks.
Yeah.
And if it was a band that I knew had a couple more weeks on the road, I'd give them all a couple pairs of socks or a package of socks, because that's the worst. Is some stanky ass feet and 5 people in a van. Ain't nobody washed their feet or ass in a goddamn month.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, let's get back to your music. So you've got Big Fucking Skull, which I love this band. That's how we first got connected, was through Jefftown Records. I gotta say, he's probably your biggest fan.
Yeah.
I know Jeff definitely has more BFS tattoos. Well, maybe his wife has more BFS tattoos than he does, though.
Yeah,
too.
He's been an inspiration I think it was something as much as like kind of a follow for follow kind of deal, because I'm pretty active on the social medias and just like, I just try to reach out and meet people and, kind of network. And I think he was somebody and he just got it. And, Big Fucking Skull is like the worst, best idea ever. And you either get it or you don't. And when you get it, you really do get it. And so
Maximum Rock and Roll did not get it.
Yeah. Which and honestly, we've and like punknews.org years ago didn't get it either. And some of them do and some of them don't. And some of them, I believe they write the reviews the way that we would want them to write the reviews because they get it.
Like, that's the other. That's why I'm wondering. I'm like, I think they do get it. Yeah. Maybe they get it more than the people write the good reviews.
Yeah. Because it is absolutely fucking ridiculous, and it's a ton of fun. Yeah, and we've been a band since high school, and the coolest thing with it is we have had a little bit of lineup change, but we were able to, or the rhythm section we have now, we're super fans through about 2010. So they were 2 dudes that were like in the front row every show, and bringing them
already knew all the chords and knew all the songs.
They know the words better than us, and because being a band for almost 30 years. And every song's about skulls that kill people. It's hard to remember what song's about what. So that's just been a ton of fun. And really with meeting Jeff and he sends us a picture, and he's got the skull tattooed on his face. And that was just like, dude, we got to finish this trilogy of 7 inches. Like, we owe it to this guy now, and then, and then really the younger new guys, we shot some videos a couple years ago and we had started booking an East Coast tour and it ended up falling apart. But, they reached back out and they're just like, dude, we got to try this again. And we decided, this round going into it as with the 25th anniversary of Six Skulls Against the World, hey, let's just get together every 2 weeks and see if we, from being friends for so long, it's really easy for us to fight. Let's just see if we get along. And for me, the band life isn't about like get here, do this, and go home. It's more like, hey, Tuesdays are BFS night, man. Like everybody get here, or try to get here around 8. We hang out for a little while. We play through the set once or twice, and then we hang out for a while and brainstorm ideas for new songs and kind of stuff like that. And it's more of just bringing back the tribe, our tribe, and spending time with each other. And we decided, before we told anybody that we were kind of looking at the idea of coming back, we were like, hey, let's just play for 3 months together. And like, let's see, pick what songs and let's pick the songs we want to play, not the ones that our fans want to play all the time or have us play all the time. And so we kind of just went around the room, and everybody every week got to add a song or two to the list, and we worked them all up. And we got a show coming up on August 21st, and it's I'm super stoked on it. I think the set list is killer. Like the energy is awesome. I think we're way more rehearsed than we ever have been. So it's going to be fun to come in at our age. And, we've got the list to have a really good eclectic group of punk rock bands from Minneapolis of all different age brackets. It's just going to be fun to come in and just slay it, and I think our set list, we're playing 18 songs in 32 minutes. like,
Well, we'll decide which ones we're gonna play. I'm like, you've got 40 minutes of songs. You're gonna decide one not to play. What are you gonna fucking do?
So no,
The way music should be,
there's
like,
I
yeah,
mean, and then we're just now that we're doing it every week, because we started like, hey, let's get together every couple weeks. Now it's every week. Now sometimes we're getting together twice a week. Now we're going out and flying for the show, which is just fun, and to go to all these places and walk in, and the poster's ridiculous, and half of them won't put it up. But the other half will, and they look at us like you're insane, and we are. And we're just going to kind of take it day by day. We're going to do this first show. It's been really cool to work with you and get that sync song in and get it in the movie, and starting to get some of this stuff going. And I think the new stuff we're working on that we're kind of keeping quiet is awesome. So
yeah, I guess I know what I'm gonna be listening to by the end of the week.
yeah, so
Yeah, so your song Blood, Guts, and Skulls is gonna be is in the new Trauma movie, Poultrygeist 2, directed by Mercedes the Muse. And yeah, another band I know was telling me they got a song, and then I'm like, and the one day I was sitting down here in my lounge shooting darts and listening to the record, and Blood, Guts, and Skulls come on. I just fucking walked away, grabbed my phone, went upstairs, and started. I got a hold of Mercedes. I'm like, I have another band that you need to do. This song fucking has to be in that. It's made for a soundtrack. It's such a good song, and yes, so I'm so stoked. I gotta see. Hopefully, there's gonna be a showing around me because I gotta go.
Yeah, I keep waiting, and it's like, man, they got to do. I mean, even if there's one in Chicago, if it's like midweek, I'd be willing to hop a train and go check it out. I think it's going to be. I think anybody that likes their films, that's the exact vein that the Big Fucking Skull is. Just utter insanity to the point of, is this real? And the art of that, so and it was really fun, and I didn't realize how big of a cult following that movie has from the first one. As I was telling some people, and they're like, oh man, that's like my to-go-to Thanksgiving movie. And I'm like, a go-to Thanksgiving movie? What? And so it's been great, and we've been talking with Jeff Town. It looks like there's a possibility of early 27, we're going to re-release Skulls Rule Okay on vinyl. And that's never been on it. And he's been an awesome dude, with his compilation, and I hope he keeps doing that stuff. It's such a thankless job to do things like that. And I put out a couple compilations, and nobody helps you, and
Oh. No, well, that's compilations are rough too, because I work for a label where people would be submitting songs, and then you find out, no, those are tied to a label, and you're going to get me sued.
Yeah.
So no, I can't touch those songs. A lot of bands don't realize what rights and who has what, or they're sending stuff where you're like, I can't press this. This is the sound, it's the mastering shit, or what. But yeah, that is a thankless job when it comes to compilation. Nobody puts out a compilation to make money. They put out a compilation because they're giving you their mixtape. They're
Yeah.
giving you their Bird CD, their playlist nowadays. God, I'm
Well,
fucking
and
old.
the funny story with Blood, Guts, and Skulls is that in 2008, Dead Sound Records wanted to put a CD compilation together, and we were like, they asked us to do it, and we were just like, let's just see if we can get kicked off of it. So we wrote Blood, Guts, and Skulls, and if you listen to the lyrics, it's bad. And we pushed the envelope, with lots of our lyrics, but that was one where we're just like, it's people are starting to get a little more, politically correct, and I don't think they're gonna let this one fly. And so we submitted it, and they call us back, and they're like, that's exactly what we wanted, And we're like, well, that backfired at us. It turned out to be a great song, and it was a wonderful experience to be part of that compilation. But when Jeff decided to do his compilation, his big thing was, hey, I want tunes that have never been on vinyl before. So that was really cool, and I do think there's something with the compilation community that could be brought back. That even with Sunflower Fox, I'm reaching out to other retro classic rock type of bands, but everybody is just so afraid of combining and joining forces, and everybody's just like, give me the attention kind of shit. And it's just like, dude, we can all achieve so much greatness together, and if we can have, I mean, that's what made the 90s so cool when Sub Pop started on the scene, and when Epitaph goes on the scene, and Lookout Records, and all these things. I mean, I used to go see Epitaph bands at Marty's in Mankato, a pizza shack, and I saw Rancid and Total Chaos and all these bands in like 92, before anybody had known them. And because they were touring together, or they had these collectives that they worked together. And we can all sit around and waste our time making reels and trying to go with what's viral and comparing ourselves to everybody else, or we can just use social media to tell our story, which is actually what people want to hear. They don't want the little clip. And then form a community and go out and tour together and make records together and do split 7-inches together, even if for any other reason it's promotion. Like, if somebody wanted to do a split record with BFS, we'd do it in a heartbeat, to be like, hey, let's both pay the $1,000 or the $500 to press this, and then use that as our marketing and give them away, versus sending Meta $1,500 for ads that 3% of our followers are going to follow, or see. And I think that's where people are like, and I'm saying it from a guy who spent $20,000 on Meta. Like, it ain't worth it.
No, like that's the thing. Like we grew up I mean, the peak for the music industry was the 90s. And the best was soundtracks,
Yeah.
because bands would write songs for the movie, or that's the only place you got them.
Yeah.
Problem is, if you didn't hold on to your physical media, you'll never hear those fucking songs again,
Yeah.
because they never get distribution rights on streaming. Anything that was written for a soundtrack will never be on streaming. I don't know what the legality is, but I've never seen it.
Yeah.
So like, I'm in the process of hunting down old soundtracks and CD singles and shit. I just got one coming in the mail today. It's George Clinton and P-Funk from the movie PCU, because they did a Prince cover that was never done again, and there's like 3 versions of it, and another song that they wrote just for the movie. It was never released anywhere else. So like, we got these awesome things, and same with compilations, like all the stuff, the Epitaph, Give 'Em the Boot, and then like all the ones that Fat Records compilations and all that stuff was amazing. And again, it was usually songs, B-sides and shit that didn't get released, unless a band put out a B-sides album, which was always my favorite shit. Same with EPs. I like almost all my favorite songs are off of EPs, not LPs.
Yeah.
Because usually it was a departure for the band. They're like, these 4 songs really ain't us, but they're fun, so let's release them. So you get to see a side of the band you wouldn't normally. Same with soundtracks and compilations, and it splits, man. There's so many bands I would never have listened to if it wasn't because I wanted to hear the other band. A friend of mine said it the best. She said, she goes, Andy from Swamp Rat. She goes, it's kind of like forcing your way into someone's music, like sneaking your way into their
Yeah,
music
yeah,
catalog,
yeah,
into their collection. Like they didn't want you here, but you're in there because they wanted to hear the other band. And
yeah,
there's something kind of cool about that. But yeah, I mean, God, I've got so many old split sevens that well, dude, they even split LPs too, or 12 inches too,
yeah.
from the 90s. And some of the, like I said, it was all stuff that was never released anywhere else.
Well,
And I
and it
don't understand why bands don't. Bands are all about collaborating online. They'll tag you in
yeah,
Facebook posts and shit, but nobody wants to do that. Get up with the other band. Hey, you know one of their songs, you're a fan, ask them. They'll probably
yeah.
let you get up and jump on gang vocals at least, or some
Well, and that
shit.
was the coolest thing, like, over in Europe, I was basically hired to help manage Mel Tepet and the Soul Ska Farmers, um, and they were playing with No Sports, which is a ska band that's been in Germany for 30 years, and, so this No Sports was headlining every night, and at the end of the night, they'd do some old Specials tune and get all of Mel Tepet up singing along and playing, and it was just and they're like and it was funny because, first couple times, a couple of the members, didn't know it was coming, so they didn't know the song very well, and, by show 3, they did, like, yeah, I think it's, one of those things that I think people should focus on a little more too, to be like, "Okay, well, CDs are selling again. Vinyl is selling again. There is merch, and this is one of the things that I've had a really hard time, with talking to labels. And right now, with Sunflower Fox, we are trying to find a label for it. Um, and when I'm talking to some of the labels, I'm like, why are you guys, if so you're down in revenue, it's been terrible for years. You know that you have these quote legacy acts that aren't quite legacy age yet, but they were bands in the 90s or the early 2000s that they put out 6 albums. They never put them out on vinyl because vinyl wasn't selling then. Why don't you just reach out to these bands and say, "Hey, I'm going to put your whole back catalog on vinyl and I'm going to give you 40% of the profit." And they can get 60%. They got no skin in the game except to actually press the physical things and put it in their marketing wheel, which their marketing wheel works. Like they can put a record out and sell it. They can get it in all the stores, and it just blows my mind that it's just a status quo in everything, in the music industry right now, to be like, well, this is just the way it is. And it's like, well, new things didn't get invented from this. We didn't figure out how to use computers to record from saying that, well, everybody uses analog tape, so it's the way it is. Now, granted, there's benefits of both of those for sure. And both have their place still. But so it's just it's amazing just kind of the way it is, with all that stuff.
With physical media coming back and CDs outselling vinyl now, and CDs are so fucking cheap.
Yeah.
Now you can get 100 of them for like 150 bucks.
Yep.
I mean, like you say, you're talking about I don't know why bands don't do split CDs.
Yeah.
Just literally do one track for each of you. It'll
Yeah.
cost you 75 bucks. You
Yep.
get 50 of them. You can't get stickers unless they're fucking slaps for that price.
Yep.
Hand them out as promos, songs that nobody else will never go on anything else.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't get better promos than that, especially the way their CDs and stuff are coming back.
Yeah.
And like I said, it's so fucking cheap to get
Yeah.
CDs. You can even get some cool ass packaging
Yeah.
for them, and you're still not going to pay $5 a piece. I
No.
mean, to get a vinyl, anything other than just black with your standard insert and shit, you're paying $10 a piece,
Yeah.
unless you're doing a really
you're looking at
huge thing.
4K for vinyl if you're doing 300 or less, and or 300 to 500, and what a lot of people don't understand with the vinyl is that you got to pay to ship it. Like, and if you're getting 500 records and you're not getting them in town where you can actually go pick them up from the plant, you're looking at $800.
Yeah,
You know?
and
Like,
something's gonna get damaged.
yeah,
I work for
and
a
it's
label, and every time stuff would come in, there at least
yeah,
one box, I swear they just dropped it on the fucking
yeah.
corner.
Yeah, well, and now with I mean, fuck, we got these tariffs. Where Sunflower's doing this really cool thing for the second record, the American Tarot record, where we're just doing for the vinyl, we're just doing singles, and then we're doing 4 singles, and then on the last one, it's got a secret track that's not going to be on the record. And then we're just
Oh,
gonna
nice.
press that, and then right now we're kinda working on getting the box set because we wanna get a sleeve that they can all slide into to sell them as a group. But then we're gonna have the CD for the album, and do that, and then, we've got our 3rd record done too, so we're kinda, at this point, trying to figure out, what's the cover art going to be on that? And that one we're going to release on vinyl first, and then slowly do the streaming, and just kind of do that. And yeah, it's a brand new frontier with everything and kind of figuring it out. The one thing that I think is great that I tell every artist that I work with in the studio is that there are no gatekeepers anymore. Yes, if you want to be a pop star, there are. You got to be a certain age, you got to do this or that. But when it comes down to who do you want to work with, and if your songwriting is good or your product is good or your band is good, nobody is off limits, especially if you find somebody like me or somebody like you that knows the lingo, that can reach out the right way and say, hey, and I tell clients all the time, like, what's one of your favorite records? Like in the last 10 years, let's get that dude to mix this, or mix a song for you. And not only is it name cred, but it's going to feel really good because you listen to that dude's art for years. Like, and that's one of the ways that, Sunflower Fox, that I ended up hooking up with Ron Nevison, which, we ended up hiring at the time we had hired a marketing team out of New York. And it was a low lying fruit kind of marketing team, where they go for SEO and those kind of things. But one of the things that after they had written the bios and they had helped with that is they're like, man, you're kind of, if you could get an iconic dude to mix this record, you got the studios, you've got the footage, you've got the songwriting, you've got the whole thing, can you find the iconic dude to do it? And so I'm like scouring the internet to be like, well, who's still alive, from the 70s time period. And I ended up finding Ron Nevison, and digging deeper, I was able to find an email. And I just sent him an email that just said, hey, Ron, you've mixed made some of the greatest records, from Quadrophenia for The Who to Physical Graffiti with Zeppelin. And I said, I probably can't afford you, but if you're still working, I think this song is right down your wheelhouse of what you would prefer to work on. Shoot me a call or an email back if you have any interest in this, and maybe we can work something out. Well, 3 days later, I'm taking a bath, and because it's kind of my ritual in the morning is read a book and take a bath for an hour, and my phone rings, and Ron Nevison's name comes up, and I'm just like, holy shit, jump out of the bathtub and run and call him back, and it turns out that he's living in Washington, right across the Columbia River, from Hood River, Oregon, which I lived in Oregon for a while. So I used to camp there every summer. I'd go there for 3 weeks because it was just a really cool town that everybody kind of left you alone. And so I asked him about the dam, and all of a sudden jumping off the dam, and he's like, dude, you like know where I live, and we've ended up just developing a wonderful friendship, and I mean, he was in his mid 70s when I met him, and I was in my early 40s. And everybody told me, those kind of things don't happen, and man, I went out to Portland 3 or 4 times to work with him in some great studios, learned amazing techniques on how to work with vocalists, how to, how to do all that kind of stuff. And that guy, I've never met anybody as a mix engineer that can balance a mix with no plugins and be like, that dude can make a record with no compression on the drums, and it's just like, he just balances everything and just understands it, and then the greatest, we decided, for the 4th record for Sunflower, we wanted to go to LA, and we tried a lot of studios, but we ended up, connecting with Sunset Sound. And then with talking to Ron, he just basically like decided he's producing the record. And I'm like, well, I don't know, Ron, like, like I wanted him to come down for a couple of days. And he's like, well, I'm moving back to LA. And now he's, we got a meeting in 2 weeks, and the dude's full on producing the next record, and that one, led to, contacting Mike Frazier, who was, that dude mixed tons of AC/DC records. I think he did 6 AC/DC records, a couple Aerosmith records. And I started looking down his line of all these records, and I was like, dude, this guy mixed like every record that made me want to play guitar, and again, you just got to reach out to them. Your product has to be good. You don't want to reach out to people when you're not ready, but if you're ready, you'll reach out to them, and they're all real people, and they're all hustling too for work, because there aren't the big contracts like there were, because we're not selling, 2 million records, and that's where they made their money. It's like now they're making a percentage of the tours, and the 360 deals. And it's like, man, you got to be on the road for 3 or 4 years for these guys to make a shit ton of money.
Yeah, well, and like you said, with finding the email and reaching out is that's the thing. No matter how big you think somebody is, you don't know what they're like. Oh wow, they've sold millions of records. Don't mean they got a fucking dime for it.
Yeah.
It don't mean they're not broke just as bad as you are.
Yeah.
And not only that, if anyone, well, at least most people aren't going to reach out to someone that's the type of person they don't want to fucking work with.
Yeah.
And if someone says no thanks or just ignores you, it's probably not someone you wanted to work with anyway. So shoot your shot because, like you said, there's people that are going to be like, you know what? No, I see something in you. I know you ain't got the cash, but this looks like a fun project. We got a lot in common. I see a lot of myself in you.
Yeah.
Let's see what we could do. You just never
Well,
know.
I think that's so true as to where, like, with me with recording anybody, now that I do it at my house and it's basically like a full, I can record 32 tracks at one time in the house and give 8 monitor mixes. So it's in some aspects, I like it better than some of the destination studios. But it's like with anybody, man, if you've got drive and you got something special, which is the relationship between you and the other people in that band, and something magical in that aspect, like I have no problem spending days not making money working for you in a partnership that you're going to work your ass off and get on the road and go show people this thing, and if your idea is, no, I'm going to continue to work my job, my 9 to 5, and this is my passion project. Well, that's different. I want to get paid for those projects. But like, if you want to get in the trenches and get in a van and go tour the country, let's do it.
Absolutely. Well, and that's the thing is, I mean, it's trying to make money as a musician. I mean, it's not that it's ever easy, but I'm glad that physical media is coming back because that was the way they made everybody made their money back
Yeah.
in the day was physical media. Because I mean, it's insane to think of now because everything's in terms of streams. But like, I remember like some of the albums, like I'd buy it and you couldn't find it anywhere because it was sold out.
Yeah.
And not because they only printed 1,000 of them. Every damn record store chain had 500 of them, and they sold them out.
Yeah.
I mean, you hear artists going platinum the week. The album dropped on Tuesday, they're platinum on Friday.
Yeah.
Like that's fucking it. No one does
And
that.
think of all the times that as we were growing up that we skipped school to go get that record. And I was like,
exactly.
I remember when Guns N' Roses Use Your Illusions came out. I skipped a soccer game to go do it. My coach was just like, this is important to me, like,
Yeah. Well,
Like,
that's the other thing. Like, it's funny because you're two bands. So Big Fucking Skull. For those who don't know, it's 90s style, kind of like street punk horror band.
yep.
It's the fucking 90s style chant-along fucking songs with gang vocals. I just fucking love it so much. And then it's just vile and funny and it's comedy. It's great. It's in all the best ways.
And it's kind of and when I describe it to everybody, I say it's 90s, street punk oi. But instead of screaming oi, we're screaming skulls or fuck, and then there's a whole bunch of little nuggets of 90s pop culture that's put in there, like whether it's TVs or movies and if you do dig deep into it and you actually get the records, and some of them you do have to get the CDs too to get the folklore of it. There is a giant folklore story that goes along with it, and as you start to read the story that goes along with it, you'll start to realize that certain songs connect and there are characters within some of the songs, and it's way deeper than anybody thinks. But yeah, sorry to derail that one a little bit, but
I love because that's how I first found out about you, and I was talking because I was doing some local regionalized distribution at record stores for some of my clients and stuff, and Jeff was like, "You should talk to this guy." I'm like, "Okay, sure," and I just knew about Big Fucking Skull, and you're like, well, let me tell you about my other band. And it's so funny, you can tell someone's age because if I show the Big Fucking Skull and Sunflower Fox and the Chicken Leg, which great fucking name. The branding for that band, we'll get into that in a minute, but God. Anyways, these two bands, you just say the same guy kind of runs these bands. People, if they're our age, they'll be like, Oh yeah, perfect.
Yeah,
Anyone else would be like, "What do you mean?" Because we grew up listening to our parents' music,
yeah,
stuff like Foghat and stuff like The Doors and Zeppelin and The Who, and then all the good country,
yep,
and Allman Brothers and stuff like that, and jam bands. So the fact that that's one of your main bands, and then you grew up to do street punk, that just
yeah,
makes sense because
yeah,
me and all my friends are the exact same.
yeah,
That's our playlist is
yeah,
70s rock and 90s punk.
yeah.
So it's such a good combination and I love it. But yeah, so Sunflower Fox and the Chicken Leg. Tell us a bit about this project because I love it. You guys are
Yeah,
awesome live.
yeah. So that started as a, that was a spinoff of the COVID thing, and at that time, I was running a pretty big corporate show band, and we were doing about 250 shows a year, all over the country, and had multiple touring rigs that were going out. And we were kind of streamlined, and we were able to, to move that a little bit. So we sent a lot of people down to the South where they could keep playing, but a few of us were back, and Katie Hart, the singer of Sunflower Fox, she's one of my best friends, and really has helped me in so many aspects of personal growth with companies, and just a diehard worker that I really wanted to do something for her, which was, hey, let's write a couple tunes. So we kind of met, and I don't know if it was her idea or my idea, but we had talked about, hey, let's write some tunes and record them like they did in the 70s, because every project that we ever have to do is pre-produce it, put it to a click track, use studio musicians, maybe play a show for a CD release party, done. And I was like, let's just go and let's first record some records. So we wrote 3 songs, and we used producer Matt Kirkwell produced it, he was a great producer. Really showed us how to tap into things of the past and bring them into the future. So we had him produce 3 songs. We went to Pachyderm Studios in Cannon Falls in Minnesota and recorded those, and it was just awesome. And then a year later, we were like, "Hey, let's do this again." And we wanted to scout places, and I ended up finding a studio in the country in Louisiana, and called down there, and found the history that Kansas has recorded "Dust in the Wind." They still had the piano that was used in "Dust in the Wind." They have a Neve, but which has replaced the old MCI board, but the Neve is the historic, the 5000 series that everybody wants. So kind of did that, and then we had worked up 4 songs to do there, and then we ended up parting ways from Matt, and then because he was playing lead guitar on the project too, and we ended up bringing in Mike Schmidt, who was kind of a friend of our friend group, but we had never played with him or been in bands with him. So we kind of drove down there, and the first day everybody was kind of defaulting to me to be in charge, and I just kind of pulled everybody outside after we did sound check, and I said, "Hey, this isn't mine. This is ours. So like, speak up, like say your piece, like let's make this record together." And it was just like a switch had flipped in everybody. And we just had a phenomenal time. We spent a week down there, ended up, getting the whole record pretty much done. And at that point we were starting into, talking to the marketing team, trying to find a mix engineer. And we ended up finding Ron. Well, in that process, we ended up, booking El Paso for Sonic Ranch. So we went out there and recorded in the Neve room, which has this giant, I think it's a 90 channel Neve. They took Madonna's and somebody else's and put them together. And so we did that. We recorded a record there. And then we went back the next year and did the A room, which is where like Cannibal Corpse had recorded, and Ministry, and like all those bands. So like we love the history of it. So that was the kind of the driving force. And then at that point, Katie was like, "Hey man, we got to play this live." And really all of us were like, that's not what we signed up for. This was like a writing project. And then the retro rock band, Ace Monroe, came through, First Ave 7th Street Entry. And I told Katie, I said, just reach out to their management and tell them that, it'll be the only show we play this summer. And we'd never played a show yet. And, they end up, give us 2 weeks notice or whatever, 3 weeks notice. They email us back and ask us if we'll join the bill. Of course, they'd already put us on the bill, and we were already being advertised. We didn't know yet, because they just assumed we were going to say yes. We sold the venue out in less than 5 days, which First Ave was just like, holy shit. And we just killed it. We did 3 rehearsals, and that just kind of fired it all up. And now it's been just awesome to, most of us come from punk rock roots. So that seems to be the place where we're landing for places to play. And it's really cool to see that It transfers well into that because we basically are a punk rock band that plays classic rock, original classic rock, and we have a couple covers we throw in just to get the algorithms to show other people who we are. But we're super stoked. We're gonna go do whiskey, and we're gonna go Sunset Sound, and we would love to get on the festival circuit. We would love to tour more. It is very hard to break into that scene, and we'll probably do a live record at some point. It's one of those bands that, if you like the record, come see it live because this band collectively has played 10,000 shows. And if you haven't seen a band that's played 10,000 shows, like even though it's not together as a band, we have all been playing for 20 years that much to where you see it, and you hear it and you're just like, holy shit, that tape can't pick that shit up fast enough,
Well, such a fun and big shout out. Everybody in the band it's so tight,
Yeah.
so fucking skilled. It's absolutely awesome. You guys have, and when that's not easy to do with a big sound and that many musicians
Yeah.
either. Like, yeah, I mean, it's easy to get a loud sound, but
Yep.
not just full and keep it that clean. And Katie Hart is an absolute badass. That
Yeah.
woman is incredible. Like, whenever I'm trying to sell your band to someone, I say, if Allman Brothers had a sister,
Yeah.
and they're like, I'm in. And then they're always like, you're right.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, you got it. You got it. But yeah, the band is so fun. And yeah, I think I can check my text messages right now. I think I messaged you the day after you guys played here in Beloit. I'm like, you need to release a fucking live album.
Yeah.
I think I texted you. That was the
Yeah.
first text I sent the
Yeah.
next day. Cause that was and 5 bars, this tiny little bar
Yeah.
with the back room. It's almost feels like you're in a shed, like a barn. Well, it's Wisconsin. So,
Yep.
and this tiny little stage, and you guys sounded like it was an auditorium. It was so clean. And that was with no sound guys. You guys
Yeah.
are jumping down trying to
And
handle
that was,
sound yourself.
we're so used because we've all been jobbers for so long. We're so used to like in-ears and having everything working perfectly. And like right away when we started this tour, and I have touring rigs. They're sitting in trailers, they go out on a lot of weekends, but we could have brought one with us, but we didn't because we're like, oh, all these places have it. And that was so great to learn as a band on that tour to be like, dude, we are going to learn how to play this hard ass shit that you have to really know what everybody's doing and be listening to them and not be able to hear them and just be able to know by looking at their eyes that they're playing the right part. And, one of the things I talk about, and again, the musicians in that band are such a pleasure to play with and have become such great friends. But Katie can sing. And what I tell people, a place like 5 Bar, she can outpower the PA by herself. Like, and you don't understand.
Mic.
Yeah.
Without a mic.
And you don't understand that until when you realize the vibration of the sound you're hearing is actually coming from her throat and mouth, not the speaker. So she
has just got a powerful booming voice. She'd have been a great teacher. She would have got your fucking attention.
Yeah.
You're gonna hear her.
She was a teacher for a long time. She ran a music school for a long time, and now
perfect.
she doesn't. So, it's just and we're hoping, to keep that on the road, and we got no problem playing small towns or small bars and small clubs. We want to build it, and eventually we'll get to the point that we can't play those rooms anymore because they're too packed. And we'll move up, but we're really going to go ground on it. And moving forward, we've all made the commitment to go on the road for 4 days every 4 to 6 weeks, starting in 27. And we're just going to pick a couple regions and try to get back there once or twice a year and just tell everybody, if this is important to you, you got to tell people about it because we want to keep doing it. And eventually we're going to run out of money. So it's got to at least break even, but we're going to keep making records and it's one of those things that like I said, we've got 3 records done. Most people have only heard about 2.5. The third one is my favorite so far. And we just got to figure out what we're going to call it, and as soon as we figure that out, we've just been so busy. We haven't even gotten to that point. And I was like, hey guys, we need a name for this one. And, the songs that are coming in for the 4th record, we just started pre-production on that about 3 weeks ago. And, everybody's contributing to them. There's some really cool witchy desert rock tunes. There's some, it's going to be a good one too. So, and we're all kind of submitting to letting Ron produce it, which is either going to be the best record we've ever done or the worst, or in the middle, but it's really cool to do it old school and be like, hey dude, this guy has a final say on everything. And then the plan is after that, If we're not completely broke, or maybe we'll do crowdfunding to do it. We're gonna shoot up to BC, Canada, and Mike Fraser's gonna mix it. We tried to get him to come down and to actually engineer the record, but they're really, a lot of people don't want to come to our country right now. So he's
I mean,
worried about the visas.
we don't want to be here. We can't
Uh,
expect someone else to want to come by
Agreed.
choice.
So, and everybody's really afraid just to, not tell the truth. And one of the things of the recording arts, and this is the way it was when we went to Europe as well, is hey, we're here on vacation. We're not here working because we're not making money. And even if we do make money, it's not making money. So it's just adding to the cost of subsidizing our cost to be here. But none of us are walking away. Nobody's walking away with money unless you're touring nonstop, and that's a hard lifestyle. So, but yeah, it's and then there's other things I got in the works. I'm in a crust punk band that we revived from years ago called Prozac Children, that we're just about done with the 7-inch. And we've actually got 2 7-inches we're going to do. And we had ice invade our state, so we got a lot of new material that we could write about. And that kind of spurred that up, and that's very, very political, but cool. I'm also in a really cool writing collective called Hullabaloo, which has people from all the different bands that I'm in, but also all over the country that contribute. And it's just a non-genre based writing project that we basically write tunes, different people do lyrics. We've got lyricists that come in, and then we have different people sing it. And then we're just using that to be like, oh, this style sounds like this. Who should mix this? We had Ron Nevison mix a 90s rock tune, which was awesome, and because he did a Candlebox record. I was like, dude, the guy can mix 90s. Let's try and see what happens, and it turned out great. Actually, Katie Hart sang on that.
Candlebox, like him or not, that was one of those like key 90s sounds. Like it's you hear like even their tone. Any one of their songs, if you've ever listened to it, you hear it, it's like, I know what the band is.
And that song that we did was called Undercover Bitch, and it's basically about a female hit woman. And Katie Hart from Sunflower Fox sang it. My cousin Nick Murray wrote the lyrics. And he had a small stint in an indie rock band, and it's just been super fun, to just the creativity. It's one of these things that when COVID hit, I kind of looked through my hard drives, and I had about 30 songs that I'd been working on that I'd never put out, and I got into this mindset of, I'm going to record everything I ever wrote since I was 14 and remake it and do this. So then we did, thinking that that would maybe settle my mind, and I did that, and now the floodgates have just opened, and I'm when Hullabaloo went to London Bridge last year, I ended up writing 15 songs in 5 weeks. Went up to my cabin, was just like, I'm just going to write in the realm of that 90s kind of feel, and just being able to be like, wow, it is possible to write 15 songs in 5 weeks and go to a iconic studio, and record them, and then bring in other writers to help finish them, and it's the collective thing of music and giving back and collaboration is so rewarding that it's one of those things I tell everybody, like, go co-write with somebody, man. If you're stuck and you're in a spot where you can't get anything done, or you're just not willing to finish, go co-write with somebody. And I've got half a dozen people I'm co-writing on other projects with, and it's just awesome to see. They'll come with lyrics and they'll be like, oh, this kind of sucks. And I said, yeah, because you put the chorus. I'm like, that's not the chorus. This is the chorus. Let's move it here. And then, we do that, and they're like, oh my God, like that just makes the whole song. I'm like, yeah, because you're too tied to it. I'm not. I'm looking at it as objectively as a producer and saying, here's your hit, here's your hook, man. Let's move that over here,
And that's the thing, collaborating is so good for creatives, because even the ones that go wrong, you learn more from those anyways.
Yeah.
You learn the types of people that you want to work with. And even the ones that are bad stuff you don't want to use, you still usually learn a lot about yourself too. I used to love doing, I had a lot of friends, we used to do tag team fiction. And we do it all through the mail, like snail mail. This isn't even that long ago either. Yeah. And it would basically be, okay, now you've got a chapter. How bad can you fuck the next person that wants to try to write? And we'd have limits, like you could only kill one person per chapter or one. And it was so fun because you had all these different styles, and it also showed you how to write in another person's style too, because you can't just be too choppy because it still needs to flow. We're trying to write a book.
Yeah.
I have to dig some of those out. It was so fun, and I learned so much because you have to change your voice to work with someone else's, and sometimes you find out your voice sucks in certain
Yeah.
genres or certain
Totally.
styles of stuff. Like, oh well, that's why some musicians do certain genres, because you don't want to hear some people do other stuff.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
not going to work.
Yeah, but and I get a kick out of watching watching your feed, and it seems like everything you collect. I'm like, I remember a few weeks ago when you got your Choose Your Own Adventure books. I'm like, damn it, I forgot about those. You know, like I got a box of those somewhere around here. You know.
Yeah, that's it. My books were the only thing I didn't keep from when I was a kid. In other
Yeah.
words, I've still got all my Masters of the Universe, my GI Joe,
Yeah.
my Hot Wheels.
Yeah.
I've got a lot of my older stuff, my physical media. I've got rid of a bunch of shit like in my 20s and 30s, but I still got a lot of VHS in my cassettes. I've got at least 2 or 3 thousand records,
Wow.
because I end up with other people's collections. Like, dead
Yep.
people keep giving me shit.
Yeah.
Like, like,
Yeah.
I only need so much Eddie Arnold. I'm using one as I use it to keep notes on, and I use it
Yeah.
as a fucking poster. It's Midwest. I don't need any more polka.
Yeah.
I like polka, but I don't need that or any more. God, what's the other good? What are the other ones we always get? All the frickin' Dixieland.
Yeah.
Man, you can't go into a thrift store or hit a rummage sale without like 20 Dixieland
Yeah.
fucking records.
Yeah. I had a good friend that he's a guitar collector, and he's probably
Well, that's an expensive collection.
well, he's probably pushing 80 now, but
Oh,
he basically in the 80s, he would at one point he was the biggest Gibson guitar collector in the United States, and he had one of every model and every year that was ever made. But he basically would go to these rummage sales at these churches and find records from the 50s, 60s, and 70s that people had self-put out, and he'd look on the back of them and see pictures of their guitars and then write down their names and track them down around the Midwest and be like, and he'd reach their heirs and be like, hey, I found this record. Is this your dad on the back that's holding this this 52 Jazzmaster or 56 Jazzmaster? And they'd be like, yeah, that's my dad. And they're like, do you know where that guitar ended up? and he would track down it, because I was like, man, there's got to be some good guitars around. And he's like, yeah, you're not really gonna find them. And I'm like, well, why is that? And he's like, because I found them all. And he's like,
see, like, I love polka music, and half my collection, it's all stuff that I'll have to show you some next time
Yeah.
you're over. And it's great because it's all stuff like these family bands that was recorded in a church basement.
Yeah, totally.
They probably pressed 20 records, and no one else in existence has one still.
Yeah.
And it's just this awesome stuff. But yeah, so I can see doing that's a cool way to build a collection.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
Yeah, totally. So
What are your collections? What's your go-to? What's going to make you go broke buying too many of?
well, it kind of varies. At one point it was guitars, and I didn't really know why. And I had that producer that I talked about, Matt Kirkwall, had said, well, we were doing when we started working on Sunflower, he's like, well, make sure when you're tracking the demo that you pick up a different guitar every track that you lay down. And I didn't know that for years. And then years later, I realized that, it's because every guitar has its own riffs in it, and as a songwriter, so that got to a point, but then you get to a certain point where you get too many and you're neglecting certain ones. And really with good guitars, you don't want to neglect them. You want to play them. They're not made to collect, and they're made to play and get better with age. So I do have a decent, I'm a huge gear guy. So I have a pretty big guitar collection. The thing that kind of has gotten me in the last 10 years is guitar pedals. And I started as the 12-year-old, 13-year-old, with the DODs and the Boss pedals, and I kept doing that, and I kept collecting them, and for years you could buy them for $25, $20, you'd see them, nobody knew what they were, and so I was able to get most of the old 90s collections all pretty dirt cheap. Then COVID hit, and everybody's sitting around, and they decided pedals are that, but I think we're sitting at a little over 400 of those, and so I'll take a picture sometime and snap it in my room. I've got a room with them, so in my house I've got a guitar room, an amp room, and a pedal room. And they're all being wired up. They're all being wired up for the studio as well. So people will be able to go in there, and I'm gonna start doing more content in there and like playthroughs and stuff like that. Um, but really, those are that. I've always been a record collector, CDs, anything music, that kind of stuff. So
I'm just laughing, picturing your wiring guy going, yeah, he's got 7 rooms wired up with cameras, thinking you're a pimp running some cam girl website or some
yeah,
shit. You're like, no, I swear it's just music. I
yeah.
swear it's just music.
No, it's well, and the funny thing is like, so one of the things that the destination studios have a problem with is monitor mixing, and basically up until 10 years ago, it was very expensive to get a good monitoring system for your studio, one where you can have, you know, headphone boxes in each room, they can control their own thing. And so they all had to spend, anywhere between 20 to $60,000 on these systems. And you can usually get about 6 different signals into it. So you can get, a drum mix, keyboard, one guitar, vocals, backups, something like that. But they're always 1 or 2 short. And now with digital, with a digital board, if you put that in between it, you can get, a monitor mix in any room through Ethernet with 16 different individual feeds, so you can just like cater these mixes to just sound phenomenal. And, it's one of these things that when I go to these studios, I'm like, why don't you just buy a Behringer rig that you can do this for $1,500, man? And stop. Cause every time they're like, well, we had to put the 2 guitars on the one channel. It's like, well, I don't want to hear him. He's already loud as shit. He's playing a Marshall right next to me, like, and so that's one of the, so as and that's why I really liked our relationship is, one of the things I told you kind of in passing last year was like, man, if we can figure out how to market what I do and what I am, like, I think we can give back at a level that's so much different. But I'm like, I've been beating around a name for 3 years. I've still been working on dozens of projects for people. And a lot of them, I go to a big studio and then we end up finishing it at my place, because the overhead is so much cheaper that, we can spend 1,000 a day at a studio or 1,500, but then really get it down to $300 or $400 a day after that. But not having a name and, people would be like, what's the name of your studio? I'm like, I don't know. I don't care. I'm not advertising. People are just coming to me, and that was the cool thing when meeting with you and where I really realized like this dude lives and breathes marketing because he's sitting there like these ideas are going through his head and comes to me with a polished thing. And that's one of the things I'm super excited for the 144 and kind of looking at it and looking at trademarks. I think we're going to do 144 Music Group and then have everything else sub of that. But one of the things I want to do is really tailor into, is there a studio that you want to go to? Like, well, here's a list of 10 that I've already been to that I have a connection with the studio, so I'm going to get it cheaper than you. I've got a connection with an Airbnb that I've actually stayed in, so I know it's good. And like, let's go to London Bridge. Let's go to Studio in the Country. Let's go to New York. Let's go to Memphis, like all these different ones. And, you know, and, uh, and that's just, been such a great thing. And so I'm super excited for just kind of all those aspects of what can we give back. I want to do compilations with people. I want to, let's go into partnerships. I'm not going to be able to afford to do it all, but do you want to partner up together? Like, and let's do these things. Let's get this grassroots and make scenes back and that kind of
and small labels that
yeah.
want to put out compilations. You got the ability to be easier to just have each of them come in and record.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and do it that way. There's
Yeah.
I mean, what you're doing is going to be great for like mid-tier bands and smaller labels
Yeah.
because those bands that are ready for the next step, but they're not quite maybe financially or they don't have the experience. They need that. Not I want to call handhold, but they need that guidance that you can
Yeah.
provide.
Or
Is going to be
even if
great.
they get, if they do get a deal, like if you get a deal, dude, don't waste the money at their place. Come over here.
No.
Let's do it for a fraction of the price and let's market it. Let's come to the table with, let's come to the table. Like if you have a label that's willing to give you, they don't give a lot of money anymore, but if they're willing to give you $40,000, like let's get it done for 10 and then you
Yeah.
own it. like, go to those situations and people just don't think like that. And it's, or, like, hey, let's get it done for 10. Let's go buy a van for 10 and let's go on the road and promote this. And now let's go back to the label and say, okay, instead of taking your $40,000 for a development deal that you might never even produce or put out to the world, we're going to pay for it, and we're going to do all this, and I think thinking outside the box a little bit, but yeah, I think it's gonna be a blast just to get that rolling and hopefully we can start it. And one of the things it's fun talking to my peers because they're all like, "Oh, we're gonna make all this money and this or that." And I said, "Well, the first 4 months I don't want to make any money." And they're like, "What?" And I'm like, "Nope, we're just doing pro bono everything for the first 4 months." And they're like, "Well, that doesn't make sense." And I said, "Exactly. Let's take out the sense of things and let's go for the passion and let's do a band a week or two bands a week and get their stuff out and just get this universe thinking like, man, this is just a vessel of positivity in this place." So
Well, that's how I built my business though. I
yep,
started out my first clients, I had one out of like 5 that paid.
yeah,
And that was on a huge discount too, because I saw these artists and I did a label and I believed in them. Like I knew they needed a little help and I needed to grow as well. I needed experience as well. And you see, and then word of mouth. I mean, I've got half my clients are on the West Coast and I've never fucking been there.
yeah,
The only ones I've met flew to Chicago.
yeah,
So, well, so I mean, that means you're doing something good. And that's the whole thing. Like, that when you're on your way up, don't step on people because you're going to see the same ones on your way back down.
yeah, totally,
And you fucking will.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, maybe one in a million don't, but no, you're gonna fall eventually. And it's the old rule of the pit shit. It sounds like cliche, but man, help each other up and
yeah.
see how many people you can bring with you. And
Well,
that's
and,
one of
and I
the
think the way that you think outside of the box too, to be like, when we decided to start working with you and stuff, and they're like, "Well, what can he do?" And I'm like, "Well, he kinda does everything." Like, he's got our records in some stores. I'm like, I just called him up. I was like, "Dude, I need a Wednesday show. I don't care where it is. Get me a show." And you were able to do that. You got us some sync royalties, like, or got us on some sync, like, and it's just you're living and breathing this, and there's not a lot of people that are anymore, and it's so part-time, and it is, and you have to do it because you love it, and you hope at some point that it pays your bills. And sometimes you got to reassess what your bills are so you can continue to do it, and that's kind of where I'm at is to the state of, I've been on the road for 20 years and it's been great. And the reward isn't what it was. The clubs and the rooms aren't full like they used to be. And even on their good nights, they're kind of like what a bad night was 10 years ago or 15 years ago. And it's like, I don't wanna just go and let mediocre be my stance. I'd rather make music with people and bring the next generation and bring the fire back to people and be like, you have to work hard and you have to support each other. And that means you stay at a show. Like, and we have a big thing right now in Minneapolis where um people pride themselves on residencies. And like if you talk to anybody on either the coast and you talk about residencies, unless you're selling tickets for a residency, it is the most foolish thing you can do. And the last thing a touring band coming into town wants to know is that you just did 7 nights in a row. Like, or once a week for 8 weeks, you played on a Monday. They wanna be like, "Dude, you haven't played for 4 months? We want you." You know? Like
I mean, I don't understand residencies. I know, and it makes me mad because there'll be like bands out of Chicago and stuff that I really love, but they only play Chicago like twice a year. And I'm like,
yeah,
fucker, you live there.
yeah,
Just play at the bar. I want to see
yeah,
you. But they're like, no, that's why we're sought after, why
yep,
our shit sells out, and why our merch sells, why our
yeah,
albums sell. You got to give them just enough to keep them wanting more, but you don't want to oversaturate it
yep,
either. Cause like, yeah, I mean, residencies work if it's a fucking vacation villa town
yeah,
where everybody coming through is new every
yep,
fucking day, every fucking week or something like that, like a Vegas or all the other little destinations. That works then, and then hey, that's cool. Then you get to be the lounge singer at the fucking airport,
yeah,
snapping fingers and making money. What the fuck
yeah,
ever. It's your vibe, do it.
yeah. Well, that whole the busking scene is just like and
Oh
that's always
God.
drive me nuts. It's like, I don't wanna work for tips. Like, like, if you like and that's just become so much of the norm, and it's like, "Really? For an extra $200 a night, you're willing to do that?" You know? So
Well, and I had, I always tell everybody too, like, hey, if you're sitting at home, you're bored, you're a singer-songwriter, go live and put your Venmo or something up there and do a freaking
yeah,
virtual tip bucket.
yeah,
I know guys that make, as I said, I had a bunch of them start doing that over COVID,
yeah,
and they made damn good money.
yeah,
There were some of them were like, I make more money now than we were playing live.
yeah, totally, and no cost, you know?
No cost. They're just sitting at home, stoned with a guitar,
Yeah.
telling stories and playing. People just
Well,
dropping
and
dimes and
again, that's
nickels
what it
fucking
comes
add
down
up.
to, and I think that's the hardest thing when I'm talking to people, and I'm not a huge video guy. I can't do it all, and I shouldn't try to because my my thing is more of the making deals happen, making experiences happen, and the audio side of stuff. But you know, with all the bands I'm in, I'm like telling 'em, you know, it's not about trying to go viral. It's about telling your story, man. And like people are, you know, and one of the coolest things with Sunflower is, man, we're in our, you know, mid 30s to late 40s. And dude, we booked a do it yourself fucking tour. Like we just went out and won over crowds, you know, like where, and you know, like that's cool. Like you don't have to be 25 and have a full head of hair and have it down to your ass and look the part. Like people want to hear the real shit, dude. I just spent 400 hours trying to book a damn tour, got 6 dates, you know, like for no money. I mean,
Exactly.
we made a little bit of money, but the whole tour, I think, you know, we did a whole tour. Think we only lost $400 or something like that, so it wasn't a bad deal, but, you know,
Well,
it's
that was with your main gig dropping off. I
yeah,
mean,
it
so
was.
other words, it would have been fine.
It would have
So
been. Yep,
that's still
and
not bad at
not at all,
all.
and it's worth doing again because we had a blast and the band got tighter and again, I don't know if I'm gonna have the additional 400 hours to do it, but even, like even reaching out to these booking agents, you know, I'm reaching out to some of the big companies in town or in the country, and they're all fucking playing to the corporate fucking party band shit. Like, they're
Yeah.
not even booking original shit because there ain't no money in it, you know, like,
No.
you know, and
Well, but like, I mean, Sunflower Fox, you guys are so professional and so fun though, because the show at Five Bar, it was a last minute one on a Wednesday after a
yeah,
3-day holiday weekend.
yeah,
So the turnout was not great,
yeah,
but they loved you because like I went to I'm booking another band there for next month. And they're
yeah,
like, oh, not Sunflower. I'm like,
yeah,
no, but they're like, okay, yeah. But
yeah,
like, yeah, they were hoping you guys were coming
yeah,
back. So they
yeah, we were and
definitely
I think,
dug
you know,
you.
that's one of and I already did talk to the band, so I've gotten the okay to do it again. Um You know, so I think it is one of those things that, you know, you gotta go back. Like, I don't know if we're gonna make it back to Savannah, Georgia because it's such a hike, but, you know, the Nashville show at the basement was great. You know, go in and play and have, and Nashville's such a fun town because, you know, everybody that you play with is playing with somebody huge, you know? So we went in and played on a Thursday night, and of course, you know, Black Crowes decided to play right down the street, so that stole, you know, being a retro rock band, that didn't help us at all, you know, like, you know, and but, you know, the band that played before us had Elton John's drummer, who's the hired gun for Elton John, you know, and the band that played after us, the drummer is the guy that helps and does the Queen stuff. And, you know, and you know, to walk in there with Sunflower, especially the band after us, you know, to have the band leader just be like, "Fuck you guys." And we're like, "What?" He's like, "You're gonna leave a trail of blood on the stage like that?" Like, and it's like to be
That's
able to go to
awesome.
Nashville, which is the town that has everybody who's touring the world playing their own stuff on the weekdays, you know, if they're not on Broadway, and to have them say stuff like that, it's like, man, this band's really good. People need to see it. Yeah, you know, and
Yeah.
we do
Well,
have
and
you know, we do have a video shoot coming up for Going to Hell, that is going to be phenomenal. And I've seen a little bit of the layout of what it is. You know, Katie's the director on all our videos, so she kind of keeps it a little bit secret to most people until the shoot. But that one is going to be kind of a fuse of retro rock meets punk rock. And it's going to be a fun one. And that's going to be shot in October, which hopefully should be out, you know, by the Halloween is the goal for that one. You know, and then we'll probably be releasing that record in its entirety sometime before the end of the year, the American Tarot record. And then the plan is, if we can, is to release the third record as soon as we can in 27. You know, we had this idea that we were going to keep holding everything and do a slow trickle. But the songs are too good. There's no reason that they need to stay on my hard drive and you guys can't hear them. And we're writing another record already. And, you know, the ideas aren't going away. So it's one of those things that like, why are we holding this? Let the world hear it, you know, and because you don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. So, but the goal is, you know, we did so far, I think in this year we've done about 12, 15 Sunflower shows. We'd love to get that up to 30 or 40. And I always tell the band, like, I don't think the band's gonna gel till we hit 500. So do we wanna take 25 years or do we wanna take 10? You know? Again, I'll be 65 playing in this band and loving it, So, I don't really care.
I'll be 65 and watching you as long as I get you playing, right up the road from me, so
Yeah,
I gotta
totally.
go very far.
Yeah, I get it.
This guy gets a hold of me and says, "Hey, I need a show somewhere between I'm heading to south. I need a show somewhere between Minnesota and Ohio.
Yeah,
I live in Beloit." I'm like, "How about Beloit? Because
yeah.
I don't want to fucking drive to go see you."
Well, and I mean, that venue photographed so well, you
Oh,
know?
it did.
And I should give you a link of those because that guy did great. Yeah, that room, they've got a gem there. I think they gotta, at some point, get a real system in there or get somebody that can run the system. But, I mean, there's no reason they shouldn't be having bands, especially with that back room where they can kinda monitor the
Oh
liquor.
yeah, they do. I've got another one booked for next month, and I got another client that's coming through in November. I'm gonna have him play there because he's doing Chicago and somewhere in Ohio that weekend.
Yeah,
So he's coming out solo for one, and then his band the next two. But
cool.
yeah, it's a cool little spot. It's an
Yeah,
employee-owned bar. Really good vibe. I like it there a lot. They do
yeah,
music, or they'll do like karaoke, or they always got something for their in just a community-minded bar, and they always got cool shit going on. They
yeah,
just did like a goth prom, I think,
yeah,
one night. So it's always pretty cool stuff going on there. But yeah,
yeah.
you guys will definitely do good there again.
Yeah, I think it's, build that room and, I kinda pitched it to the band. I said, "Hey, if we can get that record store guy to do something," and he was willing to fund one of them last time, so he'd probably do it again. I said, "If we went down there, we did his deal, we do Madison, we do Beloit, eventually, we can get to the point that the region will be Chicago or Milwaukee that we do, but let's start where we know people, and let's start where they're willing to come out, and just build from there, you know?"
Yeah, Skylar at Culture Shock Records in Rockford. Really great guy. If you're in the area, get in there and check him out. He's got an awesome, awesome store, awesome staff, good people. Yeah,
Yeah,
he was gonna help us out with one, wasn't able to, and came up to see you anyways. 'Cause I knew how
yeah,
excited he was
yeah.
about it. So
Yeah,
it was
he was
pretty
cool
cool to
dude.
see him.
So we gotta get that, and I'll touch base with you here in the future, and we'll get that penciled in, and one of the things that people don't understand, with the streaming thing is, if you're dependent on streaming, get those show dates in bands in town and get it linked to your Spotify, because as soon as you're playing, Spotify starts pitching you to more people. Like, it's just the algorithm favors that. I mean, we got that
Oh,
week that we went on
Jesus.
tour, dude, we got like a 60,000 jump. Like, it was insane,
Yeah. That
and
was absolutely insane. Yeah, 'cause I remember 'cause I track your numbers every week, and I message you, I'm like, "What the fuck?"
yeah, and it was just like, and it was one of those things that I was like, "Okay, man, like, touring helps, so, we gotta do more of it," and it doesn't have to necessarily be, 15 days at a time, because that, again, you got that Sunday through Wednesday that it's almost impossible to find shows, so that doesn't make a lot of sense, but, Thursday through Saturday, that does make a lot of sense, and, we also learned, with gas prices the way they are right now, that, you know, really, if you can get it with that 4 hours of travel, that's better, and pick the smaller towns. And I think that if bands would all start thinking like that, there's lots of college towns that they're gonna be more open to helping you, and being a community-based thing more than, hitting Minneapolis and then Milwaukee and then Chicago and then Indiana or Indianapolis and, Dayton and, like, you know, 10 hours is a bitch, and there's a lot of people, man. I had no idea that Atlanta, it takes 3 hours to get across the metro anymore in the middle of the day, like, I hadn't been through Atlanta in a good decade, so
It doesn't stop growing. Yeah, I know I got a lot of friends in Atlanta. I will never go there. I
well,
will
same thing, like,
never go to
Denver's
Atlanta.
the same thing, man. If you gotta get from the east to the west side of Denver, man, now going north south's a little bit easier, but if you're going, across it, it's gonna take a couple hours, man. Like, there's people
Says
everywhere. You know?
Well, it's same as Chicago too. I would try to get through, or we always anytime I got to go fucking east, we go a loop all the way around Chicago because I would rather take the extra hour to go around than battle the fucking traffic because
Yeah.
one bumper to bumper and it locks it up for 3 hours.
Yeah, totally.
One person bumps into somebody and the whole freaking I-90's shut down. You ain't going nowhere the rest of the day.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus. All right. Well, so what else you guys got coming up for live shows and stuff start this fall or end of the summer, early
We don't have a
fall?
lot, the end of the summer, Big Fucking Skulls doing August 21st. That'll probably be coming past by the time this airs, but we'll probably throw something else, something else in the end of the year. We're
Oh,
super open.
I promise you, when all the fans find out that you guys are back together, like, so when you posted the thing about being in the poultry guys too, your fan base came, it was like they all woke up from their
Yeah.
slumber and
Yeah.
like dug their way out, and like everybody's losing their shit.
Yeah.
So like it'd be, I know they're gonna be, you'll end up doing a whole bunch of shows.
Well, and
I'm calling it now.
yeah, and I would tell people, especially the Midwest area, if you've got something you want us to do, reach out. The sooner the better. So we can schedule things correctly. But we're looking at getting back into Wisconsin. We're looking at getting back to Chicago. We're looking at getting back down to Iowa and Des Moines and Cedar Rapids and the Dakotas, and we can make those hit really easily. And if people want it, let us know and get the community base. And if you're doing all age shit, we want the new generation to see the band. There's not a lot of that going on anymore. So if you are throwing all age shit, like, let us know. We definitely want to be part of that. Um, with that kind of stuff. Sunflower Fox, we've got a cool couple shows. We're doing a backyard bash, which is this private, huge thing in a residential area where they have a giant stage, and it's been going on for 25 years that we got invited to this year called, so we're looking forward to that. And then we're really gearing up with that. We're gearing up for November. We're going to be in LA, and we're going to record it at the Boulevard and Sunset Sound, and we're going to play the Whiskey A Go-Go. If there's anybody that wants to tag us, we've got a Saturday open. We could probably play another show while we're there. And then after that, really 27, we're looking at, Sunflower Fox would love to get on the road, every 4 to 6 weeks for a few days. And anybody that knows stuff, you reach out, like we're definitely down, and we promote heavily. Like, people will know about it. We're into making posters and doing all the cool old school shit that nobody does, and I'm a huge person about that, and just kind of keeping at it, and check out the socials. That's the best spot to see everything. Either Big Fucking
Yes,
Skulls or something.
handbills, people. Fucking
Yeah.
quarter sheet handbills with a fucking QR code. Do
Yep.
you know how fucking far those can go, man?
Yeah.
It's just, it drives me nuts. Yeah, well, the posters you do are just absolutely awesome
Yeah.
too, though. So I don't know why people don't do more flyers and posters and get out there
Well,
like that.
yeah, and
Stickers,
if it's
something.
one thing, it's one thing if you're playing, 50 shows a year, that gets spendy to make those posters, but, to make them, with the tour, with the American Tarot Tour, like, I wanted to make sure, like, it's something we could look back and be like, hey, each one of these posters is its own kind of tarot card. And,
Yep.
it was really cool. And Big Fucking Skull, it's just awesome. And we're at a point now that, most of the places will put it up, as to where 20 years ago, none of them did, and, so that's super fun. And it's been really fun to have all the old guard and the new people, like, I'm really looking forward to the BFI show. We've got, Sleeper Cell has been a band that's just wanted to play with us for years, and Die Ghost has been asking us for a decade to play a show with them. And Virgin Horse actually started because of us, 20 years ago. So it's really cool to have them back in it, and it's gonna be fun. And with anybody, if anybody wants it, like, reach out, let's do it, and let's all promote. And if any style of music is thinking about, compilations or things like that, reach out, let's record. The facility is phenomenal, and and it's one of those things that, there's no egos with working with me. It's how do we get the best product, and it's your product, it's not mine. So let's make your dream come true.
Yeah, and so until soon we'll be getting all the socials and stuff set up for 144. Until then, how does someone get a hold of you if they want to work with you?
James D. Gross on Instagram is probably the easiest. Otherwise, James D. Gross Music at Gmail is a great way. I'm pretty responsive on anything, and whether it's collaborating or recording or just want somebody to listen to your track and give you some insight on a mix. I'm all about networking, all about friendships, and all about just getting to the next level with everybody.
All right. Well, James, thank you. We always talk way too long. We
Yep.
always do. We'll stop and talk for another hour and a half. I
Yeah,
know us. That's why I say, yeah, we should start early today. I got shit to
yeah,
do this
I
afternoon.
did too. So,
All right. Well, James, thanks for coming on. I appreciate you. Everybody check out his bands, Big Fucking Skull, Sunflower Fox, and the Chicken Leg. Check out 144. James D. Gross on Instagram and James D. Gross at Gmail, right?
James D. Gross Music at Gmail.
James E. Gross Music at Gmail.
Yep.
All right. Well, everyone, thank you for watching. Please do the like, subscribe, and share. Give me some feedback. But most importantly, as always, have fun and be nice to each other, because if you're not, there's no fucking point. And we will see you next time.